Hello and welcome back to the Payment Blueprint. In the last episode, we discovered why Europe needed SEPA and how one common set of rules changed the way Euro payment moves across the participating countries. But knowing the rule is only one part of the story. Every day, millions of people open their banking app, they enter the amount and choose the recipient and send. From customer's perspective, that's where the payment ends. But from banking perspective, that's where the journey begins. Within seconds, your payment starts traveling through multiple systems. Banks keeps on exchanging the information, trying to validate the payment instructions, route the messages, and even confirm that everything is correct before money reaches the receiving account. Almost all of this happens without you ever seeing it. By the end of this episode, you will understand the complete journey of SEPA payment. From the moment you press send until the money arrives at the other bank. Once you see their journey, you will never look at the simple bank transfer the same way again. This moment probably feels familiar. You are sending money to someone. Maybe it's paying your landlord, or maybe sending money to some family members, or paying to a freelancer, or maybe splitting the cost of holiday with your friends. You open your banking app, you enter the amount, you check the recipient one last time, and then you press send. The payment disappears from your screen. For you, the job is done. But look at the question on the slide. What happens after you press send? That's something most people never think about. Your payment doesn't travel directly from your phone to other person's account. It begins a whole journey that you never ever see. A journey with several steps. Where does it go first? How does your bank know where to send it? And how long does it take? And even how does the money finally arrives in the other country or the account which is located in another country? Those are the questions we are going to answer in this episode. And every journey begins with the very first step. Your payment is ready to leave your bank. But before the journey can even begin, there is one simple question that has to be answered. Where is the money supposed to go? Think about sending a letter. Before the postal service can deliver it, the envelope needs an address. The payment works in very similar way. Before your bank can send the money to someone or to anywhere, it needs a destination. Look at the payment on the screen. The amount is there, the recipient is there, but none of that is enough on its own. The bank needs one piece of information that tells exactly where the payment belongs to. And that piece of information is IBAN. But at this stage, the bank isn't thinking about your payment message. It even isn't thinking about your clearing system. It simply needs a reliable way to identify the destination even before the journey begins. Everything starts with IBAN. The next question is just as important. What information is actually hidden inside IBAN? Let's follow that. We have just discovered that every payment begins with one essential piece of information, the IBAN, International Bank Account Number. Now, let's answer another question. What is actually hidden inside it? At first look, an IBAN looks like a random collection of letters and numbers. Most people simply copy it into their banking app and never ever think about it again. But every section has a purpose. Let's decode the example on the screen. It begins with DE. The two letters are the country code, and they immediately tells the sending bank that this account is held in Germany. Let's say if the payments were going to France, Spain, or Netherlands, those two letters would be different. Next come to the two check digits, 85. These don't identify the customer or a bank. Their job is much simpler. They help the bank to verify the IBAN has been entered correctly. Let's say if someone accidentally mistype a digit, or let's say if they swap the numbers, these check digits help detect the mistakes before the payment is being sent. Now we come to 3006010, and this is called bank identifier. It tells the sending bank exactly which bank holds the destination account. Everything that follows 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is an account number. This identifies the customer's account inside that bank. You may also notice the bracket underneath these two sections. Together, the bank identifier and account number, they form BBAN, the basic bank account number. You can think of BBAN as a domestic part of the account. Every country has its own BBAN structure. When the country code and the check digits are added to the front, it becomes IBAN, an international bank account number that banks across participating countries can read and understand. By the time the bank finishes reading the IBAN, it already knows the four important things: which country the account belongs to, whether the IBAN appears to be valid, or which bank should receive the payment, and which account inside that bank should be credited. That's why IBAN is much more than an account number. It's an standardized address that tells every participating bank exactly what the payment belongs to before even a single euro is being moved. The destination is now clear. The next question is, how do bank turn all the information into payment message that another bank can understand? The bank now knows exactly where the payment needs to go. It has the destination, it has the correct account. But knowing the destination isn't enough. The receiving bank still needs to understand the payment. Think about sending an important document to someone. Writing the address on the envelope tells the courier where to deliver it. But the letters inside explain what the sender wants to send. The payment works in very similar way. The IBAN tells the bank where the payment belongs to, and the payment message tells the receiving bank what the payment is. Now look at the illustration on the slide. Instead of sending a collection of random information, the sending bank creates a standard payment message. Every participating bank follows the same structure. The field appears in the same order. Even the information has the same meaning. Because everyone follows the same format, the receiving bank doesn't need to guess what every piece of information represents. It simply reads the message exactly the way sending bank intended. That's why banks across Europe can understand one another so reliably. The payment hasn't reached the receiving bank yet, but it is now ready to leave the sending bank. One question still remains: who carries the payment message across Europe until it reaches the next bank? Payment message is now ready. The sending bank now knows where to send the money exactly. The receiving bank can understand the message. But one question still remains: how does the message actually get from one bank to another? Many people assume the sending bank simply contact the receiving bank directly. But in reality, that's usually not how it works. Instead, the payment enters a clearing system. Well, you can think of it like a trusted route that participating bank can use in order to exchange the payment messages. Now look at the image on the slide. The sending bank doesn't send the message straight to the receiving bank. It first enters Europe's clearing system. The clearing system receives the payment message and it determines where it needs to go, and it forwards it to the correct receiving bank. This approach means the bank don't need a separate connection with every other bank across Europe. Instead, they all communicate through the same trusted network. One message, one network, and many banks. And that's one of the reasons SEPA can support payments across so many participating countries in a consistent way. In a future episode, we will explore how those clearing system works in much greater detail. But for now, there is one final step left. The payment message has now reached the receiving bank. From customer's point of view, the payment feels almost complete. But the receiving bank still has one important responsibility. Before it credits the money to the beneficiary account, it needs to make sure everything is correct, everything is all right. Let's walk through those checks. First, the bank examines the payment message itself. It confirms that the message follows the expected structure and can be processed successfully. Next, it checks whether the beneficiary account actually exists in its own banking system. There is no point sending money to an account that isn't there, right? Bank then validates the IBAN and it confirms that IBAN is valid and the point to the intended account. Finally, it checks that all the information in the payment message is complete and consistent. These checks happens automatically. For most payments, they take, let's say, only few moments. Customers rarely notice them. They simply wait for the money to appear. But these final checks helps make sure that the payment reaches the right account with the right information. And only after the check has passed its payment, it's ready to the final step. So what actually happens when the bank gives the final approval and credits the money to the account? Let's follow that. The receiving bank has completed all its checks. The payment message is valid. The beneficiary account has been verified. And everything is in order. Now comes the moment when both the sender and recipient have been waiting for. Receiving bank credits the money to the beneficiary account. And from recipient's point of view, nothing feels unusual. They simply open their banking app and see the money, right? It feels exactly like receiving a payment from someone in the same country. And that's the real achievement of SEPA. Not because every bank suddenly became the same, not even because Europe created one giant bank, and not even because the banks started talking directly to one another. It feels local because every participating bank agreed to follow the same rule. They agreed to follow the same standard and understand the same payment messages. That's what you are seeing on the slide. One standard, shared rules, and connected banks. The customer never see any of that. They simply see the result. A payment that crosses borders but feels completely familiar. That's exactly what Europe wanted to achieve. The journey began with just one tap on the phone, and it ended with money arriving safely to another account, hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away. And for the customer, it feels no different than from a local transfer. We have now followed one complete SEPA payment from beginning to the end. But SEPA is much bigger than a single payment type of payment, right? In the final slide, let's look at why Europe didn't stop with just one payment method and why SEPA offered three different ways to move the money. When we started this episode, sending money across Europe looked very simple. You press send and someone else received the money. Now we know what happens in between. What looks like simple payment is actually a carefully coordinated journey between several financial institutions, several systems, as well as different countries. Yet the payment moves as though they were all part of the same process. Not because Europe has one bank or every bank is directly connected to each other. No, that's not the case. They were never connected. But because every participating bank followed the same rules and speak the same payment language. And that's the core idea behind SEPA. It didn't change the euro, it changed how euro moves. And once every participating bank agreed on the same standard, sending money across border began to feel just as familiar as sending money within their own countries. That's why millions of people never think about this journey. In our next episode, we will answer another question. If every SEPA payment follows the same rule, why are there different payment types such as credit transfer or debit transfer and instant payments? Each one was created for a different purpose. That's exactly what we are going to uncover next. Until then, stay curious, keep learning, and I will see you in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the Payment Blueprint, where every payment tells a story.